Mother's Kitchen with Kuh-lee-uh, take 2. Part of the song where she was like, our melody became so staccato, and she was like, the rain was falling and I could not see, and I was just like, oh my god. And just the way she broke down the record and how love can be like this smooth melody, but then there's also these rough breaks in it, and just the way she was able to break that down, and like her choices of words, and like love dripped from my lips down my chin and fell into his lap, and I'm like, oh my god. And once, especially because first off, my mama bought that album so many times because she loved it that much. She would play it out till it got so scratched up, or she would lose it, but she would always buy it over again. That's like the one constant thing she would like buy repeatedly. And I liked it then, but when I got older and was listening back to it and was able to make my own connections, like my own life experiences, my own feelings about love and shit, I was like, oh my god, I get it now. Like, I get it. And I even wrote a poem inspired by that song, and just talking about what that would feel like if I ever found it. In the poem, I was like, you hit my scalp with some grease, and like just like black love things, because that's what that song felt like to me. So and now I have the full album in my playlist, so shout out to my mama for for putting me on to that, and really a lot of other things. She was a big influence with my music as far as neo soul and R&B. So of course Jill Scott, she loved Maxwell, she loved Erykah Badu, of course, but my mom was also from Gary, so we were also listening to like Bone Thugs and just a lot of other things, a lot of like she loved Tupac, Biggie, of course, stuff like that. So I always credit my musical influence, especially my early stages, to the people around me. So my mom at one point, and then really my older brother is when I started to tap into rap, because he loved like Wayne and T.I., and he would listen to Future, and when it got to the point where he was old enough to drive, and I would just be riding with him, and that's like the type of stuff he would put on, because honestly Wayne, I love Lil Wayne as a rapper, and I definitely like how he raps and his use of metaphors and wordplay. It's something that definitely comes into mind for me, like when I write rhymes sometimes, because sometimes I love a clever rap. I love shit like, oh shit, that was cold. Like, you did that with the, oh, okay, I see how you did that. So I definitely credit my influence to my family, really, and how they shape me as far as like what I love, especially when it comes to black music. So I feel like my foundation is like that neo soul old school thing, but then my older brother brought me into like that early 90s 2000s era of rap with Wayne and T.I. and Future and stuff. And then after that I really kind of discovered music on my own as far as what I liked, because I also love like pop music. Like, I love me some Lady Gaga. Like, I love me some Lady Gaga. I definitely was listening to, like, Katy Perry and stuff like that. So, for me, music has always been more than just one-dimensional. And I also was in choir. So, I definitely have, like, a classical side of me that I love as well. Especially around the holidays and Christmas time. And remember doing Christmas concerts, and we're singing, like, Hebrew songs in Hebrew and stuff like that. So for me, influence is such a big concept or way of how I view music, because I always like to be a student first before anything. So I love to learn. I love learning the background of like how a song was written, how it was produced, the story of how it came together. I just saw a clip yesterday where it was an old interview with Jamie Foxx, and they were asking how Gold Digger came about. And he was like at home. He was like, I had a call. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. My homeboy was like, yo, Kanye cutting this record. You need to come down here like now. So I love hearing things like that. I love being objective in music, because I'm never the type of person that wants to fall in line with what's popular. I want to fall in line with what's good and what feels good. So I love those details. So I hate to say sometimes I feel kind of like a snob about music, but I'm like, my taste is elite. You know what I mean? and it's really for everybody. So I have to catch myself sometimes. But it's just because like I love it so much, and I love having the knowledge. That's just as important to me as being a listener. Like I love the background story. When I found out that how Neo wrote Irreplaceable by Beyonce, and he was saying like his aunt was going through a breakup, and she had like all her man's like stuff or whatever. She was like to the left, and that's how the song came about, and that ended up being like a breakout #1 hit song. So stuff like that to me is mad cool, and I just love like the little details and things like that. So if anyone were to ask me like, oh, what's your influence and all that, I'm like, my family first off. Those are my roots. They really put me on, and I took that and just kind of found my own. Sometimes I would go backwards, sometimes I would go forward. So I feel like people would be surprised about like what I like and what I listen to, and how like far the range can go as far as me, and how that influences me sonically and visually. Because sometimes it's not even the song, but I'm like what I picture happening around it, you know. And that's really what my next project is geared towards too, is visually as well as lyrically and all that stuff. Yeah, the core of me, R&B is definitely an attachment of me personally. As far as my music, like I might pull somebody in to do the R&B elements. Exactly. Okay. It's not necessarily coming. It's coming from me, but not like me performing it wise. Like I might have written it, or I may have been like conceptually, this is what I'm looking for, but I know so and so. Oh, let me put so and so on this.
So like producing the record, because a lot of writers are producers too in some type of way, and they don't know that. So like pulling the elements together to make that record be what it is producing as well. So as in a producer's mindset, you seem like you have a producer's mind.
Thank you.
That's why, you know,
I feel like I'm tapping into that a lot more, because I do like to express my ideas. I feel like I be having so many of them, but not always feeling like I'm the person to do it per se. So I definitely have been feeling like I can be more so in a role to where I can present my ideas and then like pull people into them. Recently there was this song that I love, and the song's called Body by this artist Sinead Hartnett. But I'm like, I'm not a singer, but I have some lyrics that I wrote like in combination with the song. So I reached out to Faith, shout out to Faith, and I was like, hey girl, I have the song, I would love for us to do a cover, I have some verses, but if you could sing like the R&B part of it. She was like, yeah. So I met up with her, we set it up, and we did it at the Dolce and Gelato show. And so that was my really first time really like reaching out to somebody else and be like, hey, like I have this really dope idea and I would love for us to like execute that. So I've been tapping into that more. I do sometimes feel like I love being at the forefront. I love being on stage. I love performing, but I am at the point where getting behind the scenes too is very much so intriguing me and interesting me, like writing for others, or like you said, producing something, working on something to where I can take my ideas and have it come to life, not just for myself, and it be an extension like for other people. So it's new. It's a new feeling, and sometimes I get nervous, and sometimes I'm like, this is an area that you haven't really tapped into a whole lot, but you clearly have like a lot of ideas that you want to get out, and I feel like it could be really powerful statements. It's just about figuring out how to execute that and who to bring in to do that with.
Do you feel like that's always been a part of you, like creatively? Do you feel like you've always been a creator?
I do. I feel like I've always tried to find what avenue that was in, but I definitely feel like I have always been a creator or wanted to be in something where I was creating something. Like I've always written poems. I've always back in high school, like I helped put on our school talent show, like doing the auditions and stuff like that and picking people. So I definitely have had moments where I've been able to kind of help cultivate when it comes to like creatively. I've just never taken it to a level where it was like my full name on it or whatever, finding those avenues. But definitely felt like something was always in me creatively. Definitely felt like there was something I always needed to express. Definitely felt like there was something that needed to be let out. So it did start with the poems, and then it eventually went into rapping, which honestly was very unexpected. I'll be honest about that. I was writing poems, and I was actually at my mom's. I was in a very transitional period, so I had to move back in with my mom for like a hot second, and my younger brother was like listening to rap. He was in the shower, he was playing music, and I heard the beat, and like bars just started popping up, and I was like, oh, okay. So I went with it. I'm like, fuck it, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, you need to get into a studio now, because now you need to figure out, this is something that it just became constant. I'm like, okay, so maybe this was the creative avenue that you've always wanted or were seeking, but didn't know where or in what way it was going to manifest.
Right.
So it kind of just popped up, and I booked my first session, and I was like, I just want to see how I sound on the mic, figure that out, and it went from there. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. I can do this. I can do this. And I posted a video on my Instagram of me doing a poem. Shout out to Jamal Steele, because I was like, hey, I need somebody to do this beat for me while I like spit this little whatever. And he came up and he did it. It was an open mic night that I was at a coffee shop. And he did it, and I had someone videotape it, and I posted it on my Instagram, and DJ Ice saw the video. He was like, hey, do you want to come do some spoken word at this hip hop 101 thing that I'm doing? And I'm like, fuck yeah. So I go, and he was like, okay, you just go up there, do your thing. Like, I might play a beat or something, but you just go up there, read your poem. And I went up there and I started rapping, and he was not expecting that. And I got off stage, and he was like, oh, like you rap. And I was like, yeah, like it's new, but yeah. He was like, oh, okay. And it went from that to me hosting the Hip Hop 101s. So that's really...
Okay.
If anybody was curious about, like, my discovery story and, like, how Kuh-lee-uh even, like, came out into the world, that is how it happened. So
you just decided... So what came over you?
Oh, man. It felt right. Like I said, I had always written poetry. I always knew there was something that I wanted to do creatively more than just working a job. I was like, what I'm doing right now and just working this 9 to 5, it's not doing it for me anymore. And I got to a point where it just wasn't enough. I kept pushing it off. I kept like, oh, you'll figure it out, you know. Then a couple months down the road, I would feel this like feeling of just something was missing, and then it would pass. But then it got to the point where I was just like, bruh, like something has got to give. Either I need to take this poetry more seriously. So I started going to open mics more. That's how it started. I was like, I at least need to do what I'm doing now and take it to another level. So let me put my face out there, at least on the poem side. The rapping side did just kind of happen, but it happened and it took over. Like, I've had people tell me like, oh, I thought you always rapped and that you just started doing poetry. That's how natural it sounded. And when people were telling me that, I was like, oh shit. Like, even though to me poetry and rapping, essentially it's the same thing. Like, you start off writing your rhymes and stuff like that. But the fact that the music side felt more comfortable, it seemed more natural, and the people around me that were hearing me rap, they were like, you seem I thought you had been rapping. And I'm like, no, this just kind of started. And it just took off. Like, it just took off in ways I would have never expected it to. And so I started off hosting the Hip Hop 101s, and Ice would just kind of throw on a beat, and I would just spit. Like, I would just kind of freestyle. And then it started to get more concrete. I'm like, okay, people are actually asking me to come back. Like, I'm being asked to, like, oh, where's your music? And I'm like, So I just put out like a little mixtape. It was 1025. That was 2 years ago, I want to say now. Just like a 5 or 6 track little mixtape. Nothing really super whatever, but I just wanted to give people something. The people that were asking, I wanted to give them something. And yeah, and I just started doing that, and I released the mixtape, and people were like, okay. And then I was like, now you need to like put out an album. Now you need to like perform more. Now you need to whatever. In my first year of doing music, I had a show at Chizuko and Miss Cone. I'm like, damn, this is crazy, yo. Like, it's just wild. And I think DJ Hale was the host that night. So it just, a lot of things have come crazy. A lot of things have come full circle for me in ways that I could have never imagined. People are like, oh, you're so humble. And I'm like, because I am. Like,
Like, how did this happen?
Because
yeah, but so like I'm gonna say this. The whole line of you telling me it kind of happened.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah.
As far as rapping.
Yeah.
Rapping don't just happen.
Right.
So you was like practicing in your bedroom or something.
Girl.
You can't tell me you just got on stage and you just started rapping for real?
I bullshit you not. But what I think is what it is music is so in me just naturally. Like I said, like my mom, and that's everybody, you know what I'm saying? But like my mom was always playing music. She was also in choir. My older brother played in band for forever. He played drums. My auntie played violin. So it's always been in my life. And I think that's why maybe it just came out the way that it came out. But it definitely was not planned, even to the point where sometimes I feel guilty. For real, like
you just was like, that's like some magical shit. Hold on.
Because I know people who have been like, they knew from a young age, like, no, music is what I want to do. And I'm not saying that it's not something that I wanted. Once again, like, I knew there was something creatively that I wanted to do. I just didn't know how that was going to manifest. And rapping
got on stage,
but I got on stage
poetry.
And it was, yeah.
You like,
and I just started rapping.
8 Mile. You out there like
for real. I for real had my rabbit moment. Like for real, I really had my rabbit moment where I just. So it was crazy to me, and I'm like, damn, like. Just go with it, and I appreciate every opportunity I get, and I appreciate that because, like I said, people just don't know where I was previously, the place that I was previously, or who I even was, like before this. Like I said, like off stage, I'm so shy and I'm so introverted, and I feel like I'm even a little bit more outgoing than I used to be. Like Kuh-lee-uh a long time ago was so different. And I feel like I'm just now kind of more so coming out of my shell. So I'd be telling people, they'd be like, really? That you were nervous? I can tell, I'd be like, I was listening to the song on the way to the show. I was rehearsing the song on the way to the event. So I really just am super grateful for how far I come and the fact that people still are interested and still continue to want to listen. And I'm like, holy shit. And I want to represent for, like, I had someone come up to me, a girl come up to me after a show, and she was like, you know, when I hear you and I see you, it makes me feel confident. And I'm like, damn. Because that's such a huge struggle with artists, especially feeling confident and things like that. So when she said that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So somebody is watching and you don't even realize. So those moments where you feel, I feel so hard on myself, I keep that in mind. I'm like, somebody is out there wanting more, watching you, and feels good about what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, cool.
That's wild.
It's wild. It's crazy.
She just magically.
It just magically.
I can't get past it, yo.